Hey everybody, it's Rebecca Johnson of Supergirl Radio. I'm just getting the live stream started so we can talk about Superman Celebration that happened in Metropolis, Illinois over the weekend. So I will be bringing clips and photographs and interviews for you to enjoy as part of my experience in Metropolis. I only went on Saturday, so I have a limited experience for Superman, but there was some Supergirl. Lots of Supergirl actually in Metropolis for Superman celebration. So we'll talk about all of that. Trying to get back in the swing of things. Supergirl Radio, we haven't done a live and wired stream in a couple of weeks because I've been on vacation. And so Morgan and I had a little bit of a break. So we hope that you enjoyed the pre recorded episodes that we did on Flashbacks, a science based book that included a Supergirl story where she is in space teaching cool space facts to a young girl doing a science project. And then we also talked about Man of Steel. So if you are interested in Superman films, we did a discussion about that. So that's definitely something you can go back and check out if you haven't, or if you haven't already, definitely check it out before the Flash movie is released this weekend. So we will definitely be having a lot of Flash movie related stuff coming up. So you can get excited about all of that. Definitely intrigued by what's happening because it is supposed to be the greatest cinematic achievement of our time or of all time, of any time. So high expectations for the Flash movie. So if you have any questions or comments in the chat, let me know. I guess I could say that we hope to do an episode about the new 52 Superman because that is what they seem to be using for Sasha Kaje's Supergirl in the Flash movie. I think there's an inspiration there. So we'll be hoping to discuss that. I also have aims to talk about Supergirl's delving into a soap opera career as a soap opera actress. So I've got a whole bunch of Superman family issues related to that. So I hope that we can do that over the course of about 3 episodes is my goal because there's just so much of it. You would be surprised. There's lots of comic book content where Supergirl is a soap opera actress, and it to my great delight because I am a longtime Young and the Restless fan who is behind on Y&R several years, I think. So I don't know if I can call myself lifelong anymore because I've missed a couple of years. I actually watched a clip today and I was like, oh no, what is happening to Nick and Sharon's daughter? So I'm very intrigued now. I got to get back into the Young and the Restless. So we are hoping to cover the soap opera exploits and adventures of Supergirl in the Superman family issues. So all of that is coming up. So if you have any questions about that, let us know. Seam Gutier 74 says, quick question. Do you recommend seeing any particular DC film or films to prepare for watching The Flash? Well, Man of Steel, definitely would recommend that because it appears, and the reason that we did the review on Man of Steel was because it looks like they are recreating some scenes from that film with Michael Shannon's General Zod. So it might be good to familiarize yourself with like the world engine and the desert scene where Superman meets the military and General Zod and Feora come to get Superman and Lois Lane. There's a lot of that being recreated. The terraforming, it looks like, is happening. So I definitely would recommend Man of Steel, Batman 89, the first Tim Burton Batman movie. I'd probably do a Batman 89 Batman Returns rewatch just for funsy because Batman Returns is probably my favorite of those, like that Burton Schumacher era. Batman Returns is probably my favorite of that. So definitely check that out as well. I think you could also, if you wanted to, depending on your time, you could also check out the Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice and Zack Snyder's Justice League kind of arc, I guess, there for Ben Affleck's Batman. He is also going to be making an appearance in the Flash movie from as what we've seen from the trailers. So if you want to get general gist of Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne. I have to clarify because there's multiple Batmen in the Flash movie. If you want Bruce Wayne's relationship with Ezra Miller's Barry Allen, that would be a good one to do. I don't know that, I don't know how much they are using from the Justice League, the Joss Whedon version of Justice League versus Zack Snyder's Justice League. It sounds like maybe they considered the Justice League version canon. So I don't know how that plays into anything. If you watch Zack Snyder's Justice League, you will see the introduction of Iris West. So as far as I understand, she's going to be in the Flash movie as well. So if you want to kind of get to know Iris in that iteration, she's in Zack Snyder's Justice League, which you can watch on Max. Not HBO Max now, just Max. So those are probably, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I would rewatch. I'll probably rewatch Batman 89 again, just for funsies, before I see the Flash movie. I have Batman Returns kind of in my memory, just ingrained in my memory. So Batman 89 is a little harder for me to remember, even though that was the first one. And it's one of the greatest Batman things ever. But yeah, so if you want to see Michael Keaton Batman 89, Batman Returns, Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Zack Snyder's Justice League, and Iris West, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and Man of Steel, I would probably recommend those. They're also, in terms of the animated things, there is a Flashpoint animated movie. Is that available on Max? I hate saying Max now. I really just don't like it. I think Flashpoint might be available on Max. You might have to check it out. But the DC animated movie version of Flashpoint should be available. So that one would probably be a good one to check out in order to understand Flashpoint and kind of maybe what they're doing. So it seems like some of what they're doing is Flashpoint related. So I hope that helps. Those are the things that I would probably check out if you wanted something to watch before it releases. And CM Gutier also says Max is confusing because I would think that is Cinemax. Yeah, it's not great. It's not a great name. I am going to check in with Morgan and see if she's still able to join me. If not, I will just do this solo, and I'll just recap all of my Superman Celebration experience because I've got a lot of clips, so you don't have to just listen to me drone on. But let me check in with Morgan real quick. Maybe I'll do some while I'm making folks wait. Give me a second. And if anybody has any other questions, feel free to let me know. But I think let's do a little. We'll do a little feeding the ducks while I send a message, and I'll be right back. All right, so we will hang out and see if Morgan is able to join me. If not, we'll do it solo. I've got a lot to talk about in terms of Superman Celebration. Saw some people, met some people. Saw some people I had already met. Saw a person in person that I'd only met online. Several of those people, actually. So that was pretty fun. So lots of people at Superman Celebration. It was a big year for Superman Celebration because Superman was there. So it looks like Morgan is not able to join me. All right, so we will go ahead and get started then, and I will just kind of get everybody through my experience with all my clips. So we will officially get started, and then we'll get into Superman Celebration.
Leslie Lar's downfall is just that eyebrow twitch that she can't help doing. Could you imagine if Hope was like, let's add that to the PowerPoint? Excuse
What
me?
year is it?
How old am I? This is how a podcast breaks up.
This is the last episode of Supergirl Radio. You want a Kryptonian? You got one.
Is it a movie about saving Argo? The answer to that one is no. It's called Witch for a Summer! ! Where does she want to go? Ask her. Talk to her. Really commune with flat Supergirl.
Did we set the bar too high or too low?
I think we set the bar real medium.
You're doing an intensely adequate podcast.
Good, good.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Noyce, and you're listening to Supergirl Radio.
McGurk! I love
Not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because really?
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the CW Supergirl TV series and the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson, and for this episode of the podcast, I am live and wired on the Supergirl Radio Facebook page and the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel to recap this year's Superman celebration in the home of Superman, Metropolis, Illinois. As far as I understand it, it was the 45th annual Superman celebration, and I was only able to attend on Saturday, so I have a limited experience with Superman celebration this year, but I will go through all of the things that I did and all the people I saw. So we will get to that. But before we do that, we need to get to
The news.
We have a couple of news items to go over. The first one is that according to Deadline.com, the CW has renewed Superman and Lois for a 10-episode fourth season following months of negotiations. It will be the last remaining DC series on the network next season. To make the deal possible, there will be budget cuts that include reducing the number of series regular cast members. Superman and Lois has 12 series regulars. 12! I didn't realize that. That's a lot of series regulars. Yeah, they could maybe cut some of those characters. I hate to say it, but that's a lot. That's a lot of series regulars. Deadline here's the leads are not expected to be affected, but supporting cast members will likely be. Speeding up the decision is the fact that cast options are set to expire. Additionally, the CW is likely to share some library streaming rights to Superman and Lois, which is now available on Max, formerly HBO Max. Superman and Lois has been on par with All American and Walker, but with its superhero nature, it is also more expensive due to extensive special effects. In addition to trimming the cast, the series likely would lean more heavily into its core premise as a family drama going forward, while still honoring its superhero roots. The size of its order, 10 episodes versus 13 for the other legacy CW series, also reflects its higher cost. So if you're a big fan of Superman and Lois, this is exciting news because we get to see another season of the show. I am personally behind. I have not watched any of season 3 just because I've had so much going on, but I will definitely be binging it. So I'm excited to know that there will be more here. It looks like Morgan is joining me. So if she is available to chat, I would like to get her perspective on Superman and Lois getting renewed.
Hello. I made it. Yeah, I saw that news the other day, and I'm excited for them. It sounds like it's just gonna be like family drama now, and like occasionally maybe he'll lift like something that looks heavy but is made of styrofoam. And that's going to be a version of Superman I've never seen before, and I'm excited about that. I hope it goes like full like Real Housewives drama, where like every episode Clark is just beefing with somebody else.
Oh no, it'll be Lana.
Yes, Clark and Lana. So they're going to be like the main housewives, and he's just going to go to Lois, and he's going to be like, "You would not believe what Lana just said to me. We are not friends anymore. Tell her she's uninvited from the fashion show."
And then the secrets and lies will commence.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's what it sounds like. Did you know? I had not counted the cast members on Superman and Lois, but 12 series regulars seems like a lot. Does that seem like a lot to you?
It seems like a lot. How many were on Supergirl though?
So
substantially more?
Melissa, Kyler, Katie, Jesse, Nicole, David, and maybe Stas for the final season. And then Ozzy.
Was Ozzy? Yeah. So I guess that's only.
But even that was a lot, I think.
It did feel like a lot.
It's
yeah.
too many.
It was a lot. Yeah, there was quite a few people.
6 should be a limit, I feel like. Go with the Friends model. 6 is a good.
Get out of here. I mean, maybe they were trying to do. Maybe they were like, what if we were like lost? But they were just like, oh, maybe there's a reason they had people not in every episode.
And they killed a lot of people off regularly.
I see in the chat, Rachel says Stas, Ozzy, and Julie as well. Amazing that we forgot somebody that we liked so much from Dallas.
Oh, Julie Gonzalo, I'm sorry. They just didn't do anything with you.
We're sorry. We wanted more for you.
You're awesome.
And Nixley's actress in the final season.
Oh, crap. We forgot about Nixley.
That gets that up to 10. Yeah, so that's only 2 less than Superman and Lois. So yeah, I mean that does feel like a lot of characters to service like consistently.
It's too many. Let's see. The stranger in the chat says news did come out that the actor who plays Sam Lane will not be coming back for season 4, and the actor who plays Sarah will also not be coming back for season 4. Isn't Sarah like a main love interest for Jordan?
That's what I thought. I only watched the pilot, so
okay. Well, that stinks for those folks. But I guess you do what you have to do in order to make some episodes happen. So that is what is going on with the Superman and Lois renewal. So if you're a fan of Superman and Lois, that is good news for you. Morgan, do you want to share with everyone the latest endorsement for the Flash movie?
I would love to. I hope that it changed some new person's life. I've been telling everybody about Jaden Smith, though. I'm like, listen, Jaden Smith said he was different after he left that movie. He was completely
changed
different.
His life.
It changed his life. He went in there. He left a different man than he went in.
He didn't see it coming.
From Jaden Smith. He didn't see it coming. Who could?
WTF?
We see it coming. We know. We're prepared for like the post Flash lifestyle that we're gonna have.
I'm expecting to be changed.
So we just want to remind everyone that Sasha Calle, as Supergirl, will be making her big screen debut in theaters when the Flash movie is released on June 16th, 2023. So right around the corner for us. And you should go see it because after all, Stephen King, aka the King of Horror, tweeted, "I got an advanced screen of The Flash today. As a rule, I don't care a lot for superhero movies, but this one is special. It's heartfelt, it's funny, and eye-popping."
I don't know about eye-popping.
I loved it. And Stephen King definitely doesn't have a conflict of interest, having written the book It that Andy Muschietti made into a film. So we know this is an unbiased opinion. He has no connection to anyone in the film. He has no connection with the director. Probably not a friend. Probably has never talked to him before. And he thinks he doesn't listen. He says right there, He doesn't even really like superhero movies. But this one's different. So
he doesn't watch a lot of superhero movies, but he's definitely an expert on this one.
But he knows this one's real good.
He knows what he's talking about.
He loves this one. Stephen King. I like it. Stephen King. I have to say, if I was making like the trailers for this movie, they would get weirder and weirder, like more and more bombastic. And it would start with just like, oh, that was really fun. This is a really good movie. And then by the end, it would be like, I liked it, Stephen King. And then it would be like, it changed my life, Jaden Smith. I mean, I feel like they're really sleeping on these pull quotes, getting more and more and more exaggerated in how good they are.
Yeah, the king of horror who created It and all sorts of things that scare you. He really likes the Flash movies, so that is quite the endorsement. Good to know. Thanks for sharing, Stephen King. Well, I guess now that we have gotten through our news segment, let's get into Superman Celebration. So, Morgan, I know you did not go.
No, sadly.
But I did go, and so we'll kind of go through some of the things that I did, and I'll try to share it and make you feel like you were there. So the 45th annual Superman Celebration was held during the weekend of June 9th through the 11th, 2023. I was there for Saturday, June 10th, but other people were there for Friday and Sunday and probably did the whole shebang. So the first thing I just want to show everyone is that Metropolis has a new mural that they have painted on one of the buildings pretty close to Superman Square. It's kind of down the street. So this is an effort, as far as I understand, to beautify the town of Metropolis. There's a couple of murals that they're trying to do. So I really appreciate that they're actually doing this. They're trying to, have things that are beautiful in the town and something that you want to go and you take your picture in front of. I see that as a pretty common trend in a lot of different places. I know that's happening around Alabama as well, that murals are starting to pop up like that. So I think the new one looks great. It says, "Greetings from Metropolis, Illinois." It has a little silhouette of Superman flying at the top, and Metropolis is in big, bold yellow. And so I think it actually looks really great. So I don't know if this is more the other Morgan from the Super Museum. I think she is involved in these efforts. And so kudos to her that she's made something that I think looks really nice.
Good job, other Morgan. Proud of you.
She is doing a bang up job there. So if you're in the area around the Superman Square, definitely go take your picture. All right. Well, the first kind of interview guest that I want to have on this episode of Supergirl Radio is a familiar face and a familiar voice to Supergirl Radio listeners, and that is Maren, the St. Louis Supergirl. We've had her on the podcast before as an interviewee. So she was not there last year for some unforeseen circumstances, as she says, but she was there this year. So I stopped her as she was standing around the giant Superman statue and got some thoughts. So the last time I saw you here at Superman Celebration, it was before Supergirl wrapped up with season 6, the final season. We were talking about our hopes and dreams for the show and how it was going to end. So I was curious, what was your take on the ending? More specifically, I guess, the way Kara's story wrapped up, because at the end of Supergirl, she's outed herself to the world. Kara Danvers is Supergirl. And so I was curious what your thoughts were on that, because it's kind of a controversial ending.
I guess. You know what? I'm for it. I think that's she's reached a chapter in her life where that's what needed to happen, and I love that they brought Cat Grant back, and finally we know for a fact that she knew, which always, that was always in the back of my head. Does she? And yeah, I think I'm actually I'm for it. I'm glad that they did that.
Yeah, I was surprised about Cat coming back, because I don't think that, if I remember correctly, it's been a while now, but I don't remember hearing that Cat was supposed to come back. So when she showed up, it was a big surprise.
Yeah, I think they kept it pretty under wraps, because it was one of those things where it's just everyone was very surprised. I was happily surprised.
Well, I guess I'm curious on your thoughts on this. What do you think Kat's importance is to Supergirl? Because she was there with her in the Sterling Gates run in the comics, but I'm curious what your thoughts are, because that was kind of a needed element that was missing for so many seasons. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on Kat's importance to Kara?
I agree, she is important, and as far as the show goes, I think she just needed that strong female role model that was just lacking, and like you said, for a few of those seasons. But it was very apparent that as soon as Kat came back into her life, she kind of like thrived off of it. You know, it was they just really work well together. She kind of says what's already in Kara's head, and even though Kara's thinking it, she doesn't really tell it to herself, and so Kat tells it like it is, and I think that's really important relationship to have.
And I'm curious about your thoughts on, there's a new Supergirl who's about to make her big screen debut in the Flash movie. Sasha Kaje is about to be Supergirl. So I'm curious, are you excited about seeing what the Flash movie has for Supergirl and kind of beyond? We know there's going to be a Supergirl movie, A Woman of Tomorrow. So what are you excited about in terms of Supergirl on the big screen?
I'm very excited for the Flash. I think it'll be cool to see a new version of Supergirl. It always is, and it's be interesting to see where they take her storyline, and I will definitely be watching.
And have you read Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow? It's a comic book written by Tom King. Oh, you've got to read Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. It's one of the most beautiful comic books I've ever seen in my life. And I haven't read all of them, but I've seen a lot. But I think you would enjoy Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, so definitely check it out, because that's what the movie that's coming out 2027 is going to be based on. So definitely check it out. And since you weren't here last year at Superman Celebration, what coming back? What did you miss about it? What are you looking forward to seeing here this year?
And I miss my friends. I have so many friends here that I see once a year because I'm over in St. Louis, and so it's been so great to be back. It's a very home-like feeling. Unfortunately we had to miss last year, unforeseen circumstances, but it's wonderful to be back. I love seeing everyone, and seeing the kids. That's always my favorite, with the big smiles. So
you're a big hit. And also, one last question. Jesse Rath and Nicole Maines are here, and Tyler Hoechlin, who was Melissa Benoist's Superman. So are you going to hang around for what they're doing, and are you hoping to get to check what they're doing, like at their panel, and are you excited to see them?
Yeah, very. I was really excited to find out they were going to be here. I'm going to stick around for Jesse and Nicole's panel and see them at the statue here in a little bit, so it'll be cool.
Yeah, they definitely need to get a glimpse of you. So I think they would be kind of surprised to see you here, but you definitely try to have that experience with them, because I think they would be really impressed with your. Oh, you already did.
Well, it was a quick moment. I was walking in a parking lot. They happened to be pulling out of the parking lot, rolled down the window, commented on my costume, and it took me by complete surprise, but I was very, very happy to hear that they loved it.
Very cool. I'm sure they were having flashbacks of being in Vancouver with Melissa. So, well, thank you for your time. I don't want to take you away from everyone here, so thank you again. It's good to see you. After I finished that interview with Maren, immediately kids came up to see her. So it's always really cute to see see the kids around Supergirl. So she had a kind of a primo spot there right in front of the Superman statue. So it was good to run into her again and get her thoughts. Maybe Supergirl Radio should send Maren something. I feel like we're gonna have to get her information to send her something to maybe read. For preparation of something,
just, to get ready for certain things,
just to do some homework. I think,
just a little bit of
to be caught up on some things
from us to her.
So maybe to thank Maren for being a continual recurring guest on our Superman Celebration episodes. Maybe we can send you something, Maren. So thanks for
friend of the pod
being part of Supergirl Radio. But what she says about Jesse and Nicole is a good segue into their Q&A panel that they had. I was a little frustrated. I will say this about Superman Celebration. they had initially scheduled that Jesse and Nicole were going to take their pictures. They always do this thing where they take pictures in front of the giant Superman statue. They were supposed to do that at 12:30 and have the panel at 12:45. So I was like, I got a great spot in front of the statue. I was going to get the best picture ever. It was going to be awesome. And then they announced, oh, they're flipping it. The panel is going to be now, and then they're going to do the picture after it. Well, I was going to record the panel. So, of course, I don't get a good seat up front. So I was like rushing to figure out how to get a good shot. And I was paranoid the whole time because I had to leave my tripod and my camera on the aisle and then not block everyone else. So it was a whole thing. It ended up fine. I was just kind of paranoid about it because I forgot that my camera was set on 4K, which eats up your space on your phone. And I was like, oh gosh, is the thing going to even record all of it? But it was fine. And what was cool about it is that right before the panel, someone stopped me and said, "Are you Rebecca?" And I said, "Yes, I think so." So let me see if she is here. Let's see. We'll try to bring her in. Aaron, are you with us?
I'm here.
Well, thank you for joining us on Supergirl Radio. So I ran into Aaron, a Supergirl Radio listener, part of the live chats, big contributor to the podcast. So I ran into Aaron at the Superman statue, and we sat together for a little bit of the panel until Aaron had to duck out and leave and go home. But I guess before we talk about the Q&A panel, which I know you were there for a little bit of, Aaron, I was just curious, what made you want to go to Superman Celebration this year?
Well, the guest list was, the biggest thing because it's, it's all three, Supergirl originally from Supergirl, and now, Tyler's on Superman and Lois, but that was definitely a big draw for me. And I mean, specifically, like, Nicole Maines, I now kind of follow some of her other things she does, and she's pretty cool. So I was like, oh yeah, it's not, well, I was going to say it's not too far. It is, but it was a quick flight and then a quick drive. So
yeah. I know a lot of people come a long way. I drive about 6.5 hours. So so yeah, it's quite the drive or flight to get to Metropolis because there's not really an airport you can fly into. So it's a little complicated to get there. But I appreciate that you made the effort. And yeah, it should not have been called Superman Celebration this year. It should have been called Supergirl Celebration because it was all Supergirl,
as it should always be called.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad you were able to make it for this Supergirl heavy Superman celebration for this year. And I guess one of the other things I'm curious about, because I had a short time with you before you had to leave. What else did you do in the before time that I saw you when you were at Superman Celebration? Was there anything that you saw or did that you think might be worth mentioning to people?
So it was quick for me as well. I was there the day before, but really not having done this before. And also, as you kind of alluded to, some of their scheduling things, or not so much scheduling, but communication things, I struggled with some time frames of things. So I went to where you meet the actors, and then I realized that I didn't check in, or I didn't get the time, I didn't get my time card or whatever. So I had to walk back to the Chamber of Commerce, and that's, it's not a huge walk, but it's, 10 minutes or so. So I did that, and then I went back, and, most of what I was doing was walking, but I saw the, various booths. I, went to some of the stores. But I think the main thing for me was just on my various walks, just running into and having conversations with kind of random people from kind of all over.
Oh yeah.
California, Canada, Chicago, so it just all that was kind of the main thing that I didn't expect was going to be as prevalent. I thought I was going to be doing more events but it was just, yeah, it was just kind of doing a lot of walking, looking at booths, and then and seeing the Batmobile also was pretty cool.
Yeah, there was a replica of the Burton Batmobile there, and the Knoxville Dark Knight, I think, is his name on Instagram. He was there as well, kind of hanging out by the Batmobile. So everybody was kind of looking at that and checking it out. I am so glad you also had frustrations with some of the things at this year's event. I was going to save this to rant about later, but this was the first time. Usually they handle the autographs and the selfies, the pictures with the guests pretty well. But this year I was really shocked. So, and this I just want to put this out there just as like a warning, this could be user error. I could have maybe read the website wrong or their social media posts wrong, and it could be all on me. But normally in the past for Superman Celebration, it would be just a thing where you would meet the guests in this building and you would give them your money for the autograph or the selfie, and then you would leave. Well, this year they had, I guess because they expected a lot of people, which there were a fair amount of people there. But they had a thing where it sounded like you almost had to fill out a form on the website in order to get a pass, which looked like this. And I was kind of confused about their form because it was not like an individual form for each individual person. So it wasn't like if you want to get Jesse Rath's autograph, fill out this form. If you want Tyler Hoechlin, fill out this form. It just said, fill out this form to get your pass. And I was like, well, I want to get a pass for to see 3 of these people. Do I get 3 or do I get 1? I was very unclear. I feel like I got ripped off. I think I did. But they gave out these passes, and it was in order to get in the building is what they said. So I paid online, thought it was the thing for the autograph. And I was like, good, I've already paid for my stuff. I just show up with the ticket and they give me an autograph or a picture and I'm good. Well, we get there. I get there at this building, and everybody else in line is like, are they going to make us pay again for the autographs? And I was like, surely not. We've already paid all this money online. Surely they're not going to do this. And then one of the Superman Celebration people came out and made this big announcement. It's $40 for Nicole and $40 for Jesse and $70 for Tyler. And I was like, oh my gosh, they are going to make us pay again. So we literally, Aaron, to me, this is unusual. This is not normally how it goes. We had to pay for a pass and then pay again when we got in the building. And I was like, well, they're going to hear from me about this. I don't think you can get away with charging people like that. I don't know. That was unusual. Somebody said that maybe they did that last year with Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum, which I kind of understand. Smallville has a big following, but I'll have to say, I was disappointed in Superman Celebration for that, because I feel like they ripped a lot of people off. Because when you got to the building, they said, well, if you don't have a pass, you can just wait in line. And I was like, are you serious?
What?
So I don't have to pay for a pass to get in the building? I was so mad. So I will send a kind, gentle email with some constructive feedback and criticism. And maybe, hopefully, they'll take that into consideration. But I just did not care for the way they did that. So I guess that was your same experience with the autographs.
Yeah, well, it was similar. For me, I think it was more user error because I've never traveled somewhere to go get autographs. When there were things in my hometown, it was just like you would see the booths with the certain celebrities and if you wanted to get their autograph, you wait in their line, you pay the cash, and that's, so that's how it operated with me. And I was a little confused with because I did do that thing online, and I got the one entry ticket or whatever. But I kind of assumed at the front of where the actors was where they would do the check off of, oh, you did get the entry fee. Here's, and that would be in my head where they would give you the cards that you showed us. But yeah, it was just like, oh yeah, you need to go, sign up over at the, other area that was, about 10 minutes away. So I was like, oh, okay. So I rushed over there and, kind of got that. So it was problematic. But again, for me, it was like, oh, I've never been, I don't know how they work this, and each town, whatever is different. So, I just chalked mine up to having never done that before.
Yeah, I in my experience, this is unusual. So I I was very shocked when this happened. I was like, I am not happy about this, because that sort of ate. I had budgeted for a certain amount of stuff for my trip, and then it blew things up, and I was like, okay,
It sounds
whatever it takes.
confusing too. It's like, oh, but I have the ticket to do the thing. What do you mean I have to get a second ticket to do the thing?
Yeah, it's and it was hot too. Metropolis is so hot, and so like while you're waiting in line, you're just like burning in the sun and sweating. And so then they make you wait in the sun for like an hour, and so people were just like sweating through their clothes, and then
It
they
has
go
like
and have a
there's
picture.
there's shade though, right?
Oh
In the area?
no shade. And so people are like drenched in sweat, and they're like, "Hey, let's take a selfie."
No.
With Superman. It's like, no, that's not the way people want to have their picture made with Superman. So I'm going to just offer them some feedback. They can take it or leave it. But that experience I thought could have been improved immensely. But it sounds like, Aaron, that you did meet Nicole. Did you meet Jesse as well?
Yeah, I met both of them. And it was I sort of confused Jesse. So when I chose to do a selfie with him, and if you guys remember, like season 6, there's that moment where he and Nia have like a pinky swear, and it's like him it's sort of a redemption of him type of thing. So I was like, oh, hey, no shade to Nia over there, but can I get a pinky swear? He completely spaced the that scene. So he's like, a pinky swear about what? And I was like, oh, what have I,
Uh-oh.
But then we, he recalled and we did the pinky swear. And then Nicole said that he was dead to her.
That seems about right.
Yeah,
So it was fun.
Yeah, they were set up in the same room so they could see each other and talk to each
Yeah.
other. And so yeah, my experience was in that same room, and I introduced myself to Nicole because we've interviewed her for Supergirl Radio several times, and I was like, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm Rebecca from Supergirl Radio, and she remembered the podcast. I was like, okay. And she said something about, and she offered this up. She's like, well, maybe we could do something again. And I was like, that'd be great. We'll have you going for the next Dreamer comic that comes out.
Yes, please.
And she said something about April. Is that something that we knew?
Oh, really? Oh, it was nothing I knew, but I also forget things so often.
So maybe look for something in April, I guess, of 2024.
That would be exciting.
Or maybe she was just like, yeah, April, I'm free. I don't know what that meant.
Maybe we shouldn't read into it, but I'm reading into it fully.
But yeah, Jesse was also pretty cool. He, I chose to do the triangle hands in a picture with him. I guess I could show that for people who are watching the live stream. But he wanted to look at the picture after the fact, and he laughed about it, and he was like, I look upset, and I was like, no, you look perfect. So that was really fun to get to interact with them. And I will say with
maybe he just learned his home planet has been destroyed.
All of the Kaluans are no more
in the past.
I really kind of now regret not asking that question. Q&A. Like, what happened to all those Kaluans? Are they okay?
Are they cool?
Are they okay? But I will say because I did also talk to Tyler. I had previously, I think, gotten my picture made with him at DragonCon, but I was like, well, he's here. I might as well do it again. But I will say all three of them were very kind to all the fans who had come. And I was in line behind this lady with, I assumed it was her son in a wheelchair, who had one of those machines where I guess he talked through the computer screen. I didn't fully understand how it worked. But they were really sweet and kind to him and trying to interact with him as much as possible. And all three of them, I was behind this woman and her son in the wheelchair the whole time. And I was just so impressed with that because they didn't treat him any differently. They treated him just like they would have treated me. And I thought that takes a special person to do that. So I was really impressed with how they interacted with everyone. So that was good to see. Okay, so I guess one thing that we could talk about, Aaron, while you're still here, if you have time, we can go through some. I can't show the whole Q&A panel from Jesse Rath and Nicole Maines, but we do have that up in the podcast feed of Supergirl Radio, the podcast, the audio podcast feed, and it's also on the DCTV podcast YouTube channel if you'd like to see the video version of it. So you can view it that way. But I pulled some clips because it was like over an hour. It like just kept going and going. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going on a long time. I thought it was going to be like 45 minutes, and it just kept going.
Yeah, I felt kind of bad. I was, I was going to say a proper goodbye and, we'd exchange, information and stuff like that. But I was just like, oh, I really got to, get on the road to make sure I beat traffic. So
I totally understood. So since we can't show the whole thing, we'll link it in the show notes and the video description. But I pulled some clips just that I thought were interesting or insightful about the show. The first one we'll play is a fan asked about if Jesse had ever pitched the idea of having more Brainiac family members on the show. And here was his response.
I always wanted Vril docs to be on the show. And I had all these casting plans for it. I had a list of people I would have loved to play my father. I thought Naveen Andrews, who played Saeed in Lost, I thought he would have been awesome Vril docs. I thought Brent Spiner, who played Data in Star Trek, would have been another awesome. So Brent was supposed to play the president in season 4 on our show, but then something happened with scheduling. He had like a family emergency, and then Bruce Boxleiter ended up playing that role on our show. Who's awesome. We're really lucky we got him too. So I was like, oh man, so Brent is free to maybe play my dad, so. And then I also thought Tony Curran, who played my father in Defiance, I thought he would have been a perfect. We have such great chemistry already. He ended up playing a character in The Flash, the dude with the fin on his head. He was like a villain. I was hoping he could have played my father at some point. So I had big grand dreams of parent casting, but that didn't end up happening.
Okay, before I get thoughts, I just want to point out he knew who Vril Dox was. Super impressed by that.
Super impressed.
We've talked about Vril Dox before. I don't know, Morgan, if you remember, but he is featured in the Adventures of Supergirl comic series written by Sterling Gates.
Yeah,
it was a tie-in to the Supergirl TV series. So super impressed. Like, he knows his stuff. Then number 2, we could have had Saeed on Supergirl.
Saeed. that was my main takeaway. It was like, Saeed? Saeed on Supergirl. I mean, obviously not just great in Lost, but I watched the TV show, I think it's called The Dropout on Hulu, about the Theranos lady with the deep voice. And Naveen Andrews plays her not co-founder exactly, but like he was sort of her boyfriend, like her older boyfriend, and they worked at the company together, and he was great in that too, as like kind of a skeezy character. So I was like, I feel like Naveen Andrews can do it all. Like, yeah, that's a slam dunk right there.
Yeah, so that would have been awesome. Aaron, do you have any thoughts about seeing more Brainiac members on the show?
Yeah, so I did like his casting of Saeed as his dad, but then it also kind of got me thinking, I want to know what his mom, like if he's done any casting of his mom. Like, I think that would be kind of cool, because I think we got discussion of his mom and kind of like how that character was, but so I would be curious to know if he has thought about that as well.
Yeah, I think it was mentioned on the show one time, like in one scene, just a real short mention.
Yeah.
So he did not mention anything about his mother, but he clearly had thought out
Yeah.
I'm sure he had casting ideas as well.
Yeah.
So there is that. So these are a couple of we'll do Jesse clips first and then do Nicole clips. So Jesse also talked about the like the prom night and the prom again episodes in season 6 and how he learned how to do a baseball bat trick for those episodes, and it was interesting to hear the behind the scenes of how all that went. So here is Jesse talking about how he developed that trick.
I saw that script and I saw the baseball scene, and I got really excited. We saw that, we got the script like 2 weeks before we shot it, and I saw, and it said in the script, Brady plays baseball very weirdly, or something like very vague. And I said, okay, obviously he's the greatest baseball player to ever play the game, accidentally, you know? So I knew about that bat flip trick, where you like go to swing a bat and then you flip it and catch it in the same swing. And I'd seen people do it. I'd never done it before. I immediately, after reading the script, went to our props team and asked him, do you have a bat I could take home? He said, sure, because they have everything. He gave me a bat, and then for the next 2 weeks, I walked everywhere with a baseball bat, and I just tried over and over and over again to do this bat
Every
flip.
store he went into thought they were being robbed.
No one messed with me in Vancouver. I was the most dangerous person on the street at all times. But no, the reality is I tried in my apartment and knocked over lamps and scared my wife half to death. And I just practiced that move over and over and over again. And I didn't get it right until literally the night before. And oh my God, because it's dangerous, you know? If it hits you, I like messed up my hand. My knuckles were all bloody and everything like that. The night before, I found the perfect angle to do it at, where I could get it consistently. And then the next day, it was one of the greatest feelings in the world, because we shot that baseball scene. That team of baseball players, they're like real baseball players. They weren't like just random background. That was a real baseball team. They were like the Vancouver Balls. I don't know what their team is.
It's Pride Month. I don't know why you're looking at me.
Sorry.
Sports?
The sports balls. Yeah, the Vancouver sports balls. Yeah, yes, right. They were undefeated. And so I walked up, they were all there on the field, and we walked up to block out the scene. And as I'm walking towards this, like 30 baseball players, I just whip out the trick and I do the bat flip in front of them. And there was just this wave
and a hush fell over the crowd.
Whoa, they all made that sound, right? Yeah. It was the greatest feeling I've ever had. The coach who played the coach of the baseball team was their real life coach. He just kind of pushes through all of them, and he gets to me and he goes, "Do you play baseball?" And I said, "Absolutely not." And he says, "Can you hit a ball?" And I said, "I can hit a CG ball right out of the park."
So yeah, Jesse Rath with the dedication to the baseball bat trick in that episode. So that was a really fun sort of behind the scenes look at what they have to do to prepare for things. Like he read that in the script and he dedicated himself for about 2 weeks to getting that right. So I appreciate that scene a little more because of that.
I think he might have like a future as a baseball man, as a baseball player, a baseballer, if you will. You know how people are always calling baseball players baseballers.
They should. If they don't, they should. Yeah. And so Jesse also shared a little behind the scenes of his training Sam Witwer on how to play him playing Sam Witwer. So I also thought this was pretty fascinating.
I basically had like 3 or 4 poses that I would cycle between. I would have my hand triangle.
Yep.
I would have my like,
Yep.
fist
behind the
ring.
back.
Yeah, and the behind the back. Which was funny because when there was a scene in season 4 where Brainy uses his image inducer to look like Sam Witwer's Ben Lockwood for a scene. And so Sam got to play me playing him, right? Which is like Sam's dream. So, what I did was I sent Sam a video recorded of myself doing the scene. And I just hammed it up in the video. I'm like doing my hand thing on this line, and on this line I put my hand behind my back, and you should say, when she says, wow, that worked out, you tell her, obviously, walk forward, but then forget that she's there and then bring her back. Yeah. Like I just mapped out the blocking for how to play Brainy, right? And so, we shot the scene, and Sam just did this great impression of me doing him. And he told me it was very unnerving because behind the camera, all he could see was this little blue alien peeking his head over the camera to make sure that he was doing it correctly. But that was like...
cut. What was that?
That was a lot of fun for me, like to see someone doing an impression of me in the show.
Oh, and having them do the brainy voice.
The brainy voice, too.
Because there's a certain how you do that voice.
Yeah.
So...
I had to explain the reason, because he's like, why do you talk like that? I had to explain the reasoning to him. So, like, my reasoning... So, like, these characters, these Legion characters were created in, like, the 60s, right? And so all these names of these superheroes are like Lightning Lad and Lightning Lass. And they have this, like, real kind of, like, 60s...
Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, like this, this,
like the old-timey newscast.
This old-timey kind of way of life, that they had in the 60s. But since these characters are now in the 31st century, my reasoning was, like fashion is cyclical, maybe in the future, this thing kind of comes around again, and it becomes hip and cool to have that old kind of mentality. And so maybe they would talk in like what I call a mid-Atlantic accent, which is kind of like the Frasier, maybe kind of Stewie, a little bit of Ron Burgundy. It's like I'm not British, but I speak the language of I'm smarter than you.
I really liked hearing about the accent, because I think that was the first time I had heard that.
Me too. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I was going to say, it evoked, he didn't say this name, but for me, he evoked Winchester in MASH. Just the speaking the language of I'm smarter than you, but it's not British.
Yeah, he did a good job of making that consistent throughout his character. And it was fun to hear about how he sort of guided Sam through that scene so that he would have an idea on how to play it. So just amazing stuff from Jesse.
I was also going to say, I also remember another story very similar, but where he did, he said that he had to teach Sam how to be him, but that Sam did something that was very Brainiac 5, or that, Jesse kind of took of like, oh, hey, I like that. And then Jesse used something that Sam did later after he saw him do it, but it shows up earlier in the episode. I can't remember who I heard this from, whether it was Jesse or Sam Witwer, but there was another interview where there was a story of that where Sam did something and Jesse was like, oh, I like that, and also did it. And it shows, both of them did a similar mannerism.
Yeah. What I wish, and thank you for sharing that. I was actually kind of shocked by this panel because so much of what Jesse talked about, I was like, I'm so glad he was doing this stuff. Like he was pitching storylines and helping other people learn how to play him. And I just kept thinking, what did the writers do? What were the directors doing? Jesse had to do all of this stuff himself. So I have so much more respect for Jesse Rath than I did even before going into the panel, because it just seems so like he really cared about the character of Brainiac 5 and really wanted to honor the comics and the source material. And I just have great respect for him in that regard. So he really impressed me with this panel. And one last thing about Jesse Rath that I will also say impressed me was his advocacy for Swamp Thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Swamp Thing.
Morgan,
okay.
have you ever read Swamp Thing?
I have not.
Okay, well, let Jesse Rath pitch Swamp Thing to you.
I'm ready.
You ready, Swamp Thing? It's dope. Look, I'll set you on Swamp Thing right now, okay? Guy named Alec.
I know Swamp Thing is dope.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm gonna sell. I want to talk about Swamp Thing. Is that cool?
Who's Swamp Thing, Jesse?
Okay, guy named Alec Holland, right? Am I getting that right? He's in the forest. He's a scientist. He figures out how to transfer information through osmosis. So he takes a worm. He teaches it how to go through a maze. He kills that worm, feeds it to another worm. That new worm now knows how to go through that maze.
Oh, damn.
Right? All of a sudden, his science experiment is sabotaged. Dynamite goes up, blows up.
Oh, damn.
It explodes. His whole thing, his chemicals and everything explode. He goes flying into a swamp, right?
No cap?
No cap, ma'am. Now, Alec Holland dies in that moment, right? But the swamp is mixed with his body and all the chemicals from his experiment. Now the swamp remembers what it feels like to have ribs. So it builds ribs out of wood and branches. It remembers what it feels like to have lungs. So it builds lungs out of plants and vegetation. It forms this human-like creature. This monstrosity emerges from the swamp, and he's looking for his love, Abigail, right? He just wants to find her and tell her that he's okay. But what he comes to realize is not, all he wants is just to turn back to Alec again and be human and be with his love. But what he realizes is that not only will he never be able to be human again, but he never was human in the first place. He's just a plant that thinks it's a human. It's an examination of the human condition. It's mind-bending. It's beautiful. It's poetry. It's Alan Lawrence.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jesse Rath.
I like Swamp Thing, and I think he did a good job trying to sell it to people.
I feel like I'm sold on Swamp Thing now. Poor Swamp Thing. What a tragic tale.
An examination of the human condition. That was eloquently done. So Jesse Rath definitely knows his comic book material. So that was super impressive to me. Well, Nicole had some things to share about her experience on Supergirl. So one of the first clips I will show or play for the audio podcast listener is a question that Nicole got about the Dreamer suit and how difficult it made things on the set.
I want to ask Nicole, tell us about your process of getting into your Dreamer costume.
Oh, I mean, the Dreamer costume. So, that part. Well, for the first 2 years, I also had a corset on, which was very disappointing too, because I had two gray sides on my costume that went over my waist, and they were really stiff material, but they were detachable because they wanted to leave room open to like have harnesses and have somewhere for wires to go if they ever wanted to put me on wires. They never did. But it covered any of the waste that the corset gave me. So it was complete. So just 2 years of being like snatch waist, and then we ditched it in season 6 because I was like, look, if you guys we're not gonna see it, I'm not gonna do it. But the suit was in 2 pieces. There was a full body suit, and they had sold it to me on this like, oh, it's gonna be great. It has a zipper down the front if you need to go to the bathroom, if you need to take it off yourself. Great. And I was like, awesome. And the second part was the vest that would go over it. And it was so small, and it would pull everything back, and I could only really wear it for maybe 10 minutes at a time before just the pain set in. And so cut to me on hour 3, and they still haven't taken me out of it. And they're like, hey, how you doing? And I was like, I wish I was dead. But that I could not take off myself. It had a very intricate zipper process of like 2 different zippers going diagonally in different directions. And so they sold it to me. I'm like, oh yeah, you can take it off yourself. And I couldn't. And I'd just be trapped, needing to pee, in excruciating back pain. Like, somebody please come release me.
Kudos to Nicole, though, because it doesn't ever look like she's in pain.
It doesn't.
On the show.
It really doesn't. Yeah, that no idea that costume was kind of such a nightmare. I love this story of that it had a corset in there, but because of the panning, you couldn't tell.
Yeah, so Nicole deserves a lot of appreciation for having to suffer for the art. So that was interesting to hear about the suits, because those are things that we wouldn't know. Like as fans, we just see what they look like and they look great, but we've never put them on ourselves, so we don't know what that's like. So it's good to hear the actors actually share that information, just because it brings another layer or level to the understanding of the show, and how they had to deal with those circumstances in order to play their part. So I just have a lot of respect for the costume situation there, even more than I did. Nicole also got a question about the appearance on The Flash in the final season. So this is Nicole explaining how that came to be.
John Cryer, who played Lex Luthor, was being awarded at the Saturn Awards for Best TV Villain. And he had asked me if I would like to present the award to him. So I said yes, and I was there. And so at our table was Eric Wallace, who's the showrunner of The Flash. And as soon as I sat down at the table, he didn't say, the first thing he said was, "Oh, we need to get you on our show." And I was like, yeah, man, totally. So we talked about that, and I didn't hear anything from him for a while, and we had a Zoom call and an hour and a half, and he just was like, "Tell me about Dreamer. What are her powers? What do you think she's doing after Supergirl? Tell me everything." And then I was up in Vancouver filming Yellow Jackets, and I had an episode off, which just perfectly corresponded with the episode that he wanted to bring me in for. So I got to go, and they both filmed in Vancouver, so it was great, and it all worked out perfectly. But it was really, really fun, because I got to run around with Candace, who I adore, and she and I had been doing press together, and we'd done iHeartRadio, and we'd done South by Southwest, and so we were great friends, and we'd never gotten a chance to work together on the shows before. So that was a really great opportunity. And then Brandon and Grant, we'd have this great scene in the coffee shop where we're doing our own thing, dream realm, panic, we're going into oversleep. We have, fevers if we don't wake up, and if the clock's counting down. Meanwhile, Grant and Brandon are doing a buddy comedy duo in the barista, flipping coffee and burning hands, and they were doing a whole Type 5 routine back there. It was hilarious.
Yeah, the idea that she met with Eric Wallace, and Eric Wallace said, "Tell me about Dreamer and Dreamer's powers." Like that, I wish I could be a fly on the wall to have Nicole explain Dreamer's powers.
What are her powers? Exactly. What can't she do?
And to Nicole's credit, she often laughs, I think, even in that panel from Superman Celebration, about how sometimes the powers are sort of inexplicable. So I appreciate that there's some self-awareness, I think, going on about Dreamer's powers. So that was fun to hear about the behind the scenes about how Dreamer ended up on The Flash. So
and
that was
I
cool.
also really like that, because it sounds like Eric Wallace asked her, pitch me something about Dreamer, where would Dreamer be? And her episode on The Flash was all about her using her actual dreaming aspects of her dreaming power, which I was like, interesting. They didn't really use this that much on Supergirl. Weird that The Flash is cueing into that, and now it makes a lot more sense to me, because every time we talk to Nicole, she has really well thought out ideas about who Dreamer is and her powers, and boy, I would love to go to Naltor and see this and that. And so it was like, oh yeah, of course, it would be about her dreaming powers if Nicole was pitching it.
And Nicole actually did talk about that as well in the panel. I encourage everybody to listen or to watch the full Q&A panel, because it's chock full of this stuff. But Nicole did talk about how if they had done more of Dreamer's powers, which one would she have wanted to see more of? And she talked about the precognition. That I was like, yes, that's the thing that makes that character so unique in my mind, is that none of those other characters could do that. So I'm glad to see that was also something that Nicole seems to have taken a liking to as well. Well, the last clip I wanted to play for everybody was something that sort of caught me off guard. And it doesn't surprise me that these two are kind of talented in this way. But you'll hear one of the hosts of the panel ask Jesse Rath to do his Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. And then there might be a surprising thing that Nicole does that I didn't anticipate. So this is them having kind of playing a scene in impressions of other actors.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to do your Arnold Schwarzenegger, but everybody, you want to hear Jesse's Arnold Schwarzenegger? There you go. Let me do it one time because I saw the YouTube clip.
All right.
I hate to put you on the spot, but I totally will. Here, I'll say.
Oh, please do it. We all want to see so bad.
I mean, come on.
So Jennifer Coolidge and Arnold, what's the scenario? Give us
You're picking up a cat.
Picking up a cat?
Just picking up a kitty cat.
Come on, go pick it up.
Oh, I don't want to swear, so I'm just gonna...
Come on, put that kitty down.
Oh, it's so soft, kitty, warm kitty.
Oh, I'm so glad I asked now.
I'm Detective John Kimball. I'm a cocky idiot.
Put it down, put it down.
I'm taking him home with me. He's mine now. Oh, I'm taking the cat, dumbass.
Really impressed by the Jennifer Coolidge impersonation.
I was about to say I wasn't ready for the Jennifer Coolidge impersonation. I was like, "What? Am I at White Lotus?"
Like at the at the thing. I mean, because he only asked for like Arnold Schwarzenegger, so her doing Jennifer Coolidge kind of came out of nowhere, and then just goes straight into like Legally Blonde. Like if you close your eyes, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, she sounded just like her. So that was a great panel, and I highly encourage everybody to watch or listen to it. Aaron, do you have any final thoughts about Superman Celebration before we let you go?
No, I think I think I shared pretty much all that was relevant.
Well, did you have a good time? Did you enjoy your time in Metropolis?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a good little small town fair, but it has some really big names occasionally. So the celebrity guests this time around, I think, were perfect for Supergirl fans. So I'm glad you got to go.
Yeah, me too.
Well, cool. Well, we are going to let you go, Aaron, and we'll continue on in our Superman Celebration recap, as it were. So the next person that I have lined up for us to get to know is a guy I've seen every time I've gone to Superman Celebration. You can't miss him. He's everywhere you look. And the reason for it is because he is Metropolis's official Superman.
What?
So,
that's the job?
So I messaged him on Instagram and I said, "Hey, would it be cool if I interviewed you for Supergirl Radio?" And he said, "Sure, yeah, that'd be great." And so I got to interview Superman while I was at Superman Celebration. So this is a little interview that I put together, made it a little fancy, tried to make it kind of fun, and this will help you get to know Metropolis's official Superman.
My name is Joshua Boltinghouse, and I'm the official Superman for Metropolis, Illinois. This is my 15th year. In 2008, they had a worldwide contest to be the town's official Superman. I entered. I was living in LA at the time, and I was fortunate enough to be selected. It started off, I think, around maybe 500 people, and they cut it down to about 100, then 50, then 10, and then the top 3 had to be selected by the town and approved by DC Comics. At the time, I was pursuing acting, so that's why I was living in LA. But the process was a lot of fun. I've been a Superman fan since I was a kid, and I'd actually been to this town several times as a child, and so of course knew about it. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun.
So, what is the training for Superman?
What is this? Well, I'll do 4 days, 2 heavy days, and a heavy lower body day. Are you talking about like physical training?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. 1 heavy lower body day, 1 heavy upper body day, followed by accessory exercises. The parts that are lagging or weaker, and then 2 speed days where I have higher volume and get more conditioning in.
What's your favorite thing about being Superman at Superman Celebration?
I would definitely have to say of course, seeing the kids, seeing their faces light up, but also seeing as much, maybe a little more, seeing adults kind of revert back to children, and just seeing kind of that magic in their eye and enjoying themselves.
And what's your favorite thing about Superman?
Oh, there's a lot. When I was a kid watching him, it was, of course, it was cool. He had all these powers and everything. But what I generally liked, and I grew up watching the Christopher Reeve movies, he was a friend. He was there for everybody, and he was just, kind and always there to be helpful. He makes the right decision, even if it's not the easiest decision.
But what do you think his legacy is from the character?
Well, he understood the assignment. He makes the tough calls, makes the sacrifice, self-sacrificing for the betterment of humanity.
And I know from Instagram you have a new suit. Do you have a favorite Superman suit that you've either worn or that you've seen on screen?
I would have to say this one, and my first year was my favorite suit. Of course, I love the Christopher Reeve suit, but I'm kind of partial to Alex Ross.
What do you think about Supergirl? Do you have a favorite Supergirl? What do you think her significance is to Superman?
Well, it's extremely significant. Having a character like that to kind of counterbalance. I kind of like the newer iterations where she was supposed to be sent to Earth first, and then I can't remember exactly. She gets stuck. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Right, where Superman gets there first, but I like that they have each other, their family. I think that's very important. And my favorite Supergirl, I would have to say, is Laura Vandervoort from Smallville.
What would you say to somebody who's never come to Superman Celebration before? What would you tell them to try to get them to come, aside from seeing you?
Well, there's tons of things to do here. It's family friendly, one of the few family friendly events I think that are left in the U.S. It's a lot of fun, kind people, great community. And if you're a fan, you definitely have to come and see the Superman Museum.
So wait, what does his super job entail? Does he just he wanders around town in the suit, or does he show up for special events, or?
So he is just there for Superman Celebration.
Okay,
so
that makes a lot
he's
more
not he's not a full-time
I thought
Superman.
he was a full-time Superman, and I was like, oh my god, that's a gig that you could get. You just kind of wander around being a Superman. What if he actually solved crime too in the city?
That would be amazing. Oh my gosh.
It's oh, there was another murder. Somebody call Superman.
It'd be the safest town in the United States. But he does such a good job. He interacts with kids, and like he said, everybody just knows him as Superman when you go there. And what I like about it is that he does go to the ribbon cutting ceremonies, and I think they did an honorary citizenship swearing in, and I just love that, because it's if Superman was real and he was at that at that celebration, he would do that. He would be at all those events doing those things. So I think he does such a good job. He's a good representative for and an ambassador for the character. And you can tell that he really loves doing it. And that picture on the wall is actually him as a kid in front of the giant Superman statue. So he's had a long history with Metropolis. And I did not realize until I talked to him that went. I just thought the town of Metropolis selected him. But it sounds like the heads of DC Comics also had to approve him. So that says a lot for him. And he also told me kind of in passing as I was leaving that he also auditioned for Superman Returns. So he tried to be the big screen Superman. But I think being Metropolis's Superman is actually much more important, because he's actually making Superman come to life.
I think so as well. I see Erin gave a detail from her experience. She said, I think I was in line behind him, and he would use a fan to cool off people in the near vicinity. So that sounds like a very Superman thing to do to me.
Always helping people out. And so if you're ever in Metropolis for Superman Celebration, just stop him and have a picture, because that's kind of what he's there for. So he's a really great guy, and he's going to be Superman, I guess, until he doesn't want to do it anymore. But that's a really cool story, and I appreciate his time there, because he does a fantastic job. And he gave us a good segue into the Super Museum, because it's Superman Celebration. I'm in Metropolis. I got to go in the Super Museum. because it's the house of wacky Superman items that I have no idea what they are. So I found some things that I didn't know what they were, and so I thought I would just bring them to you, Morgan, and see if you
I'm
have
excited.
any
I'm so
thoughts.
excited.
Well, the first one I do know what it is. They had a little Jim Hambrick inside the Super Museum, and I thought he was adorable. Jim Hambrick, if you don't know, he is the founder of the Super Museum, and everything in there is his collection. So everything that you see in the museum, from what I've been told, is only 10% of his collection. So there is a lot of stuff in storage that we're not seeing, but he has one of the greatest Superman collections in the world. So Jim Hambrick is kind of a legend in Metropolis and among the Superman collection industry, I guess. So it was cute to see that there was even a collectible of him in the museum.
So cute.
I
like his little mustache.
Yeah, he looks just like the picture behind him. So
he kind of looks like a little Ted Lasso, but like a super Ted Lasso.
So super cute. I had never seen that before. Also, there was this weird little guy. I was like, I've got to take a picture of that because I got to figure out what that is. And so I did a Google image search, and this is a Funko Ugly doll Babbo. I don't know, Morgan, do you know anything about the Funko Ugly dolls?
I know nothing about any of this.
So apparently there is a Funko in the Ugly Doll, I guess, franchise that is dressed as Superman with the blue top with the S shield and the yellow belt and the red pants and boots. So I thought he was cute and weird, and so I took a picture of him. There was also a game that I saw that was called the Superman Action Game. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it does.
Fascinating.
But I thought it looked pretty cool. It looks like Superman is maybe saving, like stopping a bridge from collapsing or something. I'm not really sure what it does. I tried to look it up, but I couldn't find any information about it. So if anybody knows anything about this antique Superman action game, let me know because I would be very curious.
It looks interesting, but I don't really understand. Like, I wonder what the gameplay is like. Like, what do you do with Superman?
I don't know, but it looks like something that we would balance. Like maybe it would tip. I don't know. Maybe you have to balance.
If only we could do a game night of this game.
How do we get that for Supergirl Radio game night? I wish I could. Another item that I thought was pretty cool in the Super Museum. These are all things I had never seen before in the Super Museum. So these are all new things for me. There was a letter from Kurt Swan. And if you know anything about Superman comics, you've probably heard the name Kurt Swan because he's probably known as like the definitive artist of Superman. And so I think this is Kurt Swan here. It looks like a sea and a swan. And it's to the Metropolis Recreational Incorporated. Don't know what that is. But it says, "Sirs, thank you for the invitation to Superman's birthday party," in quotation marks. And it says, "I most certainly will attend." And so then there's a drawing with a little, maybe that's supposed to be him, Kurt Swan. There's like a man on the back of Superman as he's flying, and the caption reads, "They weren't kidding when they said this will be on Superman." So Kurt Swan coming with the jokes, with the puns there. And I don't know if that's supposed to be Krypton or Metropolis itself. Maybe that's them going to Metropolis for Superman's birthday party. But I thought that was really cool that they have this old letter from Kurt Swan in there. So that was a really neat item that I had never seen before. And so I wanted to share it.
That's really cool.
Another item was, so in the George Reeves section, they have kind of like I guess you would call it an exhibit, but it's mostly just a collection of items. So there's a George Reeves section, and they had a bunch of cards from George Reeves. And one of them was a motion picture employee identification card, which I thought was pretty cool. I guess that makes sense that the actors would have to have an ID card to get into the studios, I guess. So you can see his social security number, his signature. His ID card was 41548. Not that matters anymore, but I thought the picture was funny because it looks like a mugshot.
Yeah, it does. Why does he have the thing in front of that?
I don't know. He has like his ID number. So he has like some sort of placard card in the picture in his ID picture, and it's his ID number, and it says underneath motion picture employee. So that's how they did those ID cards back then. But I thought that was pretty cool to see George Reeves's motion picture employee ID card. Also in the George Reeves section was a card for the Channel 11 Superman Club. So whoever this card belongs to, I don't know if this is Jim Hamrick's personal card, but and I want to do more research into this. So I guess if you were watching the Adventures of Superman in the 1950s, they had Superman clubs from different channels around the country. And this one is from Channel 11, wherever that is. And this card has an official number, which is 3608. So almost 4,000 kids probably in the Superman Club. So that's really neat to see how they did that. So even back then in the 1950s, they were figuring out how to channel the fan base. How do we get all of these kids who love this show to be interactive? So I think that's really innovative for the time. So it was neat to see that card. Also, this weird little guy, apparently they made Superman Batman hand puppets. It's a very strange thing. It reminds me of the puppets from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which terrify me, actually. I love puppetry, but the Mr. Rogers puppets I don't play with. But I guess you could stick your hand up into this little hand puppet and use it to become Superman. I don't know what the Batman one looks like, but they definitely had a Superman hand puppet, which looks pretty old. It might be maybe the 60s. If I had to guess, that might have.
It does look pretty. It looks a little dated.
So if you didn't know, they had Superman hand puppets. They also had a collection of, I guess these are toys or puzzles. I couldn't really tell, but there were a bunch of boxes with Superman coming out of like a brick wall. So Superman is crashing out of a brick wall. So I like that they have this in terms of like all of these things together, so you can see the different iterations of the depictions of Superman busting through the brick wall and how that they were packaged. I think for me that I think is really interesting. So I don't know. It says something about plastic assembly kit. I don't know. Are you like assembling like bricks to crash through? Is this what this is? Like,
I'm unclear about the concept. Is it life size? Can you just assemble a bunch of bricks and then crash through them like Superman?
Maybe like one of them might be like a statue of Superman like crashing through a brick wall. The one on the bottom left might be. But I don't know. When I initially took the picture, I was like, is this a thing where like kids could build the brick wall and then crash through it? Like I didn't know. So I wish I could do, because it says something about plastic assembly kit. Assembly means put it together, right? Like that's what I get out of it.
That's why I have this like mental image of like kids like building this brick wall and then being like, I'm Superman, and crashing through it, and like that's the whole thing, and then they have to just like rebuild the wall again just over and over, like a Sisyphean task. Like you're never done with it. Just always rolling that boulder up that hill. They're like, okay, another wall.
Well, Len Workman has a some additional information saying it's a plastic model kit. They're about 10 inches tall, and that he has a Batman one. So that's good information to know. Lynn also says, I have a Batman hand puppet in my collection. So you'll have to show us how that, if you have it out of the packaging,
the Batman version,
please use it so that we can see it. And Hagel Blast in the chat says there is no Channel 11 in the Metropolis area, so that's not local. So we need to figure out where Channel 11 is.
A mystery.
Send us feedback and let us know. Also, something that I couldn't figure out any information on.
Super Bebes.
Something called Super Bebes that had Batman, Spider-Man, Shazam, and Superman, and maybe some other characters on it.
Well, it looks like, is that Supergirl?
Maybe it is. Yeah, maybe it is Supergirl because it's got blonde hair.
It does have blonde hair. Although, I mean, there do seem to be a lot of blondes for some reason. I guess when you are a bebe, you are blonde for some reason. I don't really understand this, but Batman is also blonde. So.
Spider-Man is the only one who seems to have brown hair.
Why is Spider-Man allowed to be brunette if all the other super bebes are blonde?
I assume these are dolls, but I could not find any information on them.
I like the name because it makes me talk like Moira Rose from Schitt's Creek. I'm like, yes, the super bebes.
I'm also really fascinated by this because it's DC and Marvel together.
Oh, I didn't even make that connection. But
So
what's Spider-Man doing in there?
Yeah, like the licensing around that must be interesting. And I think it's also worth noting that Shazam is in this because Shazam, a lot of people don't know this, but in comic book history, Shazam at one point was more popular than Superman.
What?
So, yeah. So Shazam was a big to-do back in the day. People loved Captain Marvel. So Shazam would have been popular. I don't know when Super Bebes came out, but Shazam is definitely on there for a reason because he probably was pretty popular. Update on Channel 11. Hagelblast says there's a Channel 11 in St. Louis, so it could be from there. Oh, okay. All right. So we're just going to assume St. Louis, and we'll have that mystery be solved. Okay, the next game that I want to show you from the Super Museum, and I want to see if you can spot anything about this that is maybe incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a game. It looks like a board game. It's called Domination.
Okay.
So
Sure.
do you see anything on the box that is maybe incorrect?
Well, Lex Luthor is heartily endorsing it.
It's the Gene Hackman Lex Luthor.
It is the Gene Hackman Lex Luthor. Is that how you spell Lex Luthor?
It is not. So
yes, I got it.
On the Domination board game, which has a map of the world on it, so you're trying to achieve world domination, I think, with this game. But it's spelled Lex Luthor with an ER instead of an OR. So Domination people really dropped the ball on this one. Would you play a game of Domination if you got a chance to do that?
I maybe I would. Am I playing against Lex Luthor? Then I could be like, oh, I guess I'm better at board games than you, Lex Luthor. So it's me and Lena. Maybe you're just not good at board games. Yeah, no, I think this could be fun. This could be fun to kind of play Lex Luthor dominating the world.
Yeah, if I can find a version of this game still floating around somewhere, I will try to get it for Supergirl Radio game night. I really, really want that to happen. But that was kind of a funny find there. I initially took the picture and then I went back and looked at it later and was like, wait a second, that's not how you spell Luthor. So that was definitely wrong. If you were, before I get to the next one, if you were to guess like what a poster for Superman the movie would look like, what do you suppose would be like visually would be on the poster?
I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take a stab. I'm going to say Superman is going to be on the poster.
Yeah.
I'm going to say he's going to be maybe in one of his like classic iconic poses, like flying at the camera.
Okay.
Maybe like a handout, like, whoa, like, in the air flying. Maybe
all
a
good
Lois
guesses.
Lane. I would love a Lois Lane. I know it's not always possible. Maybe like a Daily Planet in the background. Those are my stabs.
Okay, good guesses. Well, here's what one of the posters inside the Super Museum actually look like.
Well, I did not see that one coming. I gotta be honest. It's just a sky. It's just a sky on that poster.
It's a purple sky.
Yeah,
and
it's not even really
or maybe it's supposed to be blue and like it's faded because it's old, or maybe it's been weathered by like the sun.
I feel like I got a couple questions here. No Superman on the Superman poster.
No S-Shield.
No S-Shield.
Nothing.
Immediately I've got like some questions about the marketing team, which was I guess just somebody who like walked out their door, took a picture of like a sunrise and was like, aren't we all just sunrises?
In addition to the fact that it has nothing to do with Superman the movie visually, which I guess maybe are those supposed to be crystals? Maybe they're supposed to be crystals. Like
maybe
there's like a transparent sort of crystal image in there, but that's really hard to make out. I think I might be reading into it, but it feels like those are crystals. Anyway, so there's also a lot of text on here, which I thought was really fascinating. No Superman logo or symbol on here, but lots of text. So it says the man for whom movies were invented, I don't think that's the case, is now the ultimate movie experience. He's always been a hero, yet through the whole history of modern adventure, he's been a hero waiting to be real. Now he is real. Well, that's also not true.
Yeah, sure.
It says 40 years after the first comic strip, the art and science of film have met the challenge of Superman, brought to life as a man and more by an extraordinary assembly of writing, directing, and producing talent. Well, they're just really hyping themselves up with this thing. And then it says by a stunning array of motion picture stars and by the awesome technology of film, which his incredible explosions, it's hard to read, that superpowers out of the realm of fantasy and makes them startlingly real. They really want to emphasize on this poster that this
Superman is real. He is a real person. You can hurt his feelings. You must be nice to Superman.
And the last little paragraph here, this is like 4 paragraphs of text on this, maybe 5 if you count the top. But so much text on the Superman the movie poster. And then it says the ultimate human adventure for the Superman who flies is also the man who loves, who struggles with human truths and human feelings to fulfill his destiny, and no longer the man of tomorrow. He has come of age, our age. And then in all caps it says, the Man of Steel is real. So I could not get over this poster. I was like, what is this? Why is this? So it is just so strange, but I guess this is one of the posters that I don't know if this would have been used in theaters. I don't know what this was for. But it was definitely interesting. I love going into the Super Museum because they have all these variations on like the Supergirl the movie poster, and it's like, what were they doing? Trying to sell people on this movie. But that was the first one of the Superman the movie that I was very confused about. Definitely going to do some more research on that one.
Yeah, I want to know the backstory of like what marketing person was like, okay, it's a sunrise, it's a little blurry, and then the text, let's go with like 1,000 characters.
and what we're really going to emphasize is that Superman is a real person.
And we want everyone to know that Superman is actually real. And they're like, Jeff, you do know that Superman is like a fictional character. And he's like, Jeff is like, excuse me, I was led to believe he was real. And I'm going to tell everybody that he was real. And that's what I want this poster to show. And they're like, great, Jeff, we're going to print off like a bunch of those. And they're like, print 10, put them all in Jeff's office. I think that's probably what happened with that one.
Well, the slogan for that movie ended up being, "You'll believe a man can fly."
You know why? Because he's real.
So maybe this is the precursor to "You'll believe a man can fly." And they just shortened it real short.
This is them workshopping. Like, I like to imagine that they put out that poster. They were like, we have some issues with the poster. We need to workshop it. We need to like tighten it up. And so they're all in the room. And like Jeff just keeps on being like, we need them to know that Superman is real. And they're like, what if we said we like believe in Superman, but we're like not saying explicitly that he's real? And Jeff is like, if it doesn't say he's real, I walk. Like that's the like heated discussion I want there to have been in some like Mad Men advertising office.
That was the hill that Jeff wanted to die on, was that Superman was real. That is how we're going to sell that movie. So you'll believe a man can fly really came from someplace.
We have a comment in the chat that I really liked from Lincolnberry, who says they needed a Veronica synopsis on that poster.
That was a Veronica-like description. That
was like everything you might need to know about Superman. He's real. You have to respect him.
Oh man, I just thought that was so funny. Now I wish I could find a copy of that for myself. I need that in my home. All right, so in addition to that for Superman the movie, there was also a storyboard I don't know if I had seen before from Superman 2. So I thought that was pretty cool. They had these sort of sprinkled around in different sections of the museum, but I was like, these are really neat. I wish I knew more about this. So don't hide these, Super Museum. This is pretty cool to see sketches of Superman, in a like a really heroic pose with his cape flying in the wind. And this is from the scene where he says, "Haven't you heard of the freedom of the press, General?" So that's from Superman 2. So I really like that, because then you can see, like, this is the Metropolis sequence. It says that it's sequence number 7 and script number 33. So I think that's pretty cool. It even has I don't know if that's the aspect ratio up on the top left. I'm not really sure. But I enjoy seeing the kind of behind the scenes stuff of that. So lots of really cool things in the Super Museum that I had never seen before. So that was pretty fun. So even if I've been to the Super Museum many times now, there's always some wacky new thing that I've never seen before. So I always tell people, like, even if you've been to the Superman Museum before, go in again. They may have changed some things, replaced some things. So it was delightful for me to see some new stuff there. Okay, so the last interview that I brought with me for this recap was actually in regards to Supergirl, because the artist who worked on Sterling Gates's Supergirl run, Jamal Igle, was there at the celebration, the convention. And so I got a chance to talk to him about his run on Supergirl and kind of what he likes about Supergirl. But for the sake of time, the interview that I did with him was about 15 minutes long, and that's not really something I can play over the live stream. So what I think I might do is just release it as a full Supergirl Radio episode on its own, so you can actually hear Jamal Igle in full. But I thought I would pull a couple of clips to sort of tease you for that. But it was really funny. I sort of introduced myself to him earlier in the morning, because when I first got there, I wanted to get some water. I'd forgotten to bring to refill my water bottle. And so I went, there's like a little Hardee's, I think it is, right next to the giant Superman statue. And so I went in there to get a bottle of water. And I saw him in there, and I was like, "Are you Jamal Igle?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, I'll probably come find you later," because I had brought a comic for him to sign, and I wanted to see if I can interview him. So I had that little experience with him right there, but then went back to the artist alley later to actually sit down with him. And he also did a drawing with Jamal panel or session where he did some demonstrations about drawing and talked about the philosophy of drawing, I guess, the theory behind why you draw things the way that you draw. And I didn't get to come to all of that due to my schedule and kind of the wonkiness of that the autograph selfie situation. But I got there towards the end of it, and he shared a couple of stories that I didn't get on video, but he talked about and this will probably play into the full interview more, but he shared a story about how when he first got onto Supergirl, he said he had met with a DC executive who told him, "I never want to see Supergirl's," and this is the word he used, "I never want to see Supergirl's panties again." So the era of Supergirl before Sterling Gates and Jamal Igle took over was very, I don't want to use the word scandalous, but it had some, Supergirl showed some skin, and it was
kind of like cheesecakey with the art.
She was not drawn in the best of ways. Some of it was not written in the best of ways. And so I thought it was interesting that he was specifically told, like, you need to go away from that and do something else. And so so Jamal talks about that more in the full interview that I'll release later, but I pulled a couple of clips so that you can kind of get a sense of Jamal Igle, who was very nice to me. And he just seems like a jovial guy who likes to talk about comics and Supergirl and Superman, and really enjoyed being there. So I asked him about coming to Superman Celebration and what he thinks about the event. What are your thoughts about Superman Celebration? Because it's a kind of small town, it's a little different than other.
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, I don't mind doing smaller conventions. I do a lot of small conventions as well. But I mean, there's the fact that the town gets so into the characters of Superman. I love the atmosphere. I try to describe it to my wife before I came. It's kind of like a comic book convention and a state fair. It's very unique. It's fun to see. Everybody seems to be having such a great time. I love watching.
And I was so glad that in the artist alley, which is this in the same building that it's been in the past, they actually had air conditioning this year. So
Oh,
if,
that's very nice.
if
Luxurious.
if Dr.
almost.
Nicole or the Workmans are listening or watching, they will know that in the past, it's been very hot in that building, and they've had no AC, and those poor artists in there are like drawing commissions in the heat with no AC. So I was glad that he was very comfortable in there. It was very pleasant in that building. So I was glad for him. So I'm glad he came back to Superman Celebration after having been gone for such a long time and seemed to be enjoying himself. I also asked him, we had a long conversation about Supergirl and his Supergirl run, so definitely listen to the full version. But this is just a clip of me asking him about what he likes about Supergirl.
I like that she doesn't give up. That she makes mistakes. She may not always want to own them, but she makes mistakes, but she never gives up. That's the biggest thing. That's she's a good kid. You know, she's smart and she's funny when she wants to be. And I think that, you know, in spite of, you know, just speaking specifically of what we did, like in spite of all the trauma and fairly recent trauma that she had gone through, the fact that she wanted to live up to this ideal, not just the ideal that, you know, that Clark laid out before her, but the ideals that her father laid out before her. You know, she was trying to live up to, you know, being a part of the House of L.
And if you have read the Sterling Gates and Jamal Igle run of Supergirl, you would know that they really put her through the ringer in that run. And I think that's part of why it's so good. And so it's nice to hear a Supergirl creator really understand, I think, why we like Supergirl, that she is a character who overcomes the tragedies in her life and becomes more hopeful in that process. So it was neat to hear his perspective on that as well. Now, Morgan, you will find this interesting because I'm like, here I am with an artist. What's the question? What's the one question I got to ask him? What is art?
Oh, obviously, what is art? Now, I don't want to spoil myself for the interview, but was it paintings of horses?
We might have a new theory. No, so we might have differing opinions on the answer to this question. But this is Jamal Igle's response to the question, what is art? This is such a big question, but now that I'm sitting and talking to an artist, I've been trying to figure out the answer. I'm sure everyone has done this.
Right.
But the question I've been trying to answer for myself is, what is art? A lot of people, you know, have different opinions and ideas about that. I've been trying to do a personal study on that. So I guess, in your opinion, if you had to answer the question,
Right.
It's a huge question.
It is a huge question.
But if you had to answer and respond to the question, what is art? What do you think you might say?
Art is expression. Art is emotional expression. It is the non-verbal tool of communication that binds the entire world together, because we all speak different languages, but we can all recognize the same imagery if we're shown it without words. And that is the greatest way that you could express yourself without having to open your mouth or even write a single letter, is just draw something. And that is art. That is emotional expression.
Now, that's not paintings of horses.
It's not paintings of horses, but I do think it was a good answer.
I think that's a solid answer. I like that he sort of made the analogy of the fact that visually, it doesn't matter where you come from, what language you speak, we can all identify visuals and identify with pictures. And I think that's a really interesting way to think about that that is one way to communicate, no matter what you don't have those language barriers to break through. And I think that's a really interesting perspective on that question. So we've got a couple of answers to that question so far. I don't know if we have a definitive one yet.
I feel like the horses is the definitive one, but I think this is a good second. I like that he gave like a really good, thoughtful answer, and I'm still like, I just think paintings of horses is still just such a solid.
That is art. So I really appreciate Jamal Igle spending a few minutes of his time while we were down there in Artist Alley. And I guess the last thing that I want to share with everybody, because this was a unique experience. This is my, I guess, let's see, I've been in 2019, 2021, 22. It's my fourth time at Superman Celebration. This is the first time I had ever seen this. But there was a wedding that took place underneath the giant Superman statue. And on the schedule, what it said was Lex Luthor marries Lois Lane. And I thought, oh, this must be some performance thing that they're doing, because a couple of years ago they did a chessboard game.
Yes, the chessboard game. That's exactly what I was thinking.
So I thought, well, this must be the same people. They're doing another little bit. It might be a cute little thing to check out. And so I kept looking for it, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I missed it or something. And I went to Superman Jeopardy in I think it's the Metro tent, the Metropolis tent, whatever that first tent is there right by the statue. And so I was just kind of like listening to the questions and sort of playing Jeopardy, not on stage, but like in my seat. And all of a sudden I saw a lot of people gathering around the Superman statue. And I was like, what is going on? And then some music started playing. And so I got up, the poor Superman Jeopardy guys, like their whole game got interrupted by this wedding, So I got up and I went outside, and I saw this woman in a wedding dress walking down this aisle that they had created outside. And there was a Superman Celebration person, like a volunteer or staff person next to me. And I leaned over and I was like, is this like a real wedding? And she said, yeah, this is a real wedding. I was like, oh, okay. That's really interesting. So a bunch of us gathered around outside the Superman statue. And this real life couple got married underneath the giant Superman statue. And the guy who was marrying them joked about how they were standing there underneath Superman's crotch. So it was just a really kind of a cute little event. Some of the groomsmen were in costume, and the bridesmaids were in red, yellow, and blue, the primary colors. And so it was just it's a very wholesome thing that they had just gathered there with their friends and their family and strangers like me who wanted to check it out. And everybody was really supportive of them after they had said their I do's and it was over. Everybody cheered. And it was just a really sweet little event that happened. And so I thought that was a cool thing. So if you ever want to get married and have a Superman themed wedding, you can do that here at Metropolis, in Metropolis at Superman Celebration. So I think that's really cool. And I think I recognize some of the people who are in the wedding or like regular attendees of Superman Celebration. So that was cool to see that.
That's so neat. What
Yeah.
an interesting idea for like a Superman fan, like to have your wedding at Celebration underneath the giant Superman statue, who we've established is real.
Yes. He is a real person, and he's around there in Metropolis. Lynn says, I know of at least 2 previous weddings. Scott Cranford, the official Superman before Josh, had a ceremony with his wife, and the Hollywood Superman married his wife there. They got divorced and he passed away. So there were a couple of other weddings there. So this was the first one for me, but apparently they've done this before.
Ah, interesting. So there is sometimes love is alive at Superman Celebration. Sometimes we're celebrating a couple of different things.
So that's kind of my experience at Superman Celebration. I hope everybody felt like you were there and you got to go with me. It's a fun, short little event. Now that I've done the whole thing, usually I just go to Saturday. That's when the big stars are there and kind of when all the main stuff is happening. But I had a good, full, fun day at Superman Celebration. So that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. I want to thank our live and wired guest, Aaron, as well as Maren, the St. Louis Supergirl, Joshua Boltinghouse, and Jamal Igle for sharing their experiences from Superman Celebration here on Supergirl Radio. And so I think before we get out of here, though, we need to get to some Supergirl Radio and some DC TV podcasts plugs. I think we have the plugs. Yes. If you would like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Podchaser, and Spotify, where we also have a Spotify playlist that includes music featured on and inspired by the CW Supergirl TV series. We are listed on DC's fan page, which you can find at dccomics.com/DC-fans. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our Supergirl Radio live streams, make sure to subscribe to the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to get notified when we go live and wired. DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, onesies, mugs, notebooks, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
Now see here, Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV Podcast Network, so if you want to listen to other shows, we've got The Flash Podcast, Legends of Tomorrow Podcast, The Lituation Room, DC on HBO Max Podcast, Stargirl Podcast, Superman and Lois Radio, Green Lantern Podcast, The Sandman Podcast, DC TV After Dark, and Justice League Dark Podcast.
And since Nicole Maines and Jesse Rath were guests at this year's Superman celebration, we have some Dreamer and Brainiac designs in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store that we'd like to suggest.
Yeah, we've got a couple of mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, all that kind of good stuff in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store. Some official Dreamer looking things, but also some t-shirts that just say Dreamer. I feel like that's still
Dreamer.
applicable.
Yeah.
I think you can still make that work. And we don't have any Brainiac 5 specifically, but we do have some Brainiac designs in the TeePublic store. So I think that's still pretty fitting in the same family. So definitely check that out if you need more merch to show your love for the Supergirl TV series. And if you would like to support Supergirl Radio, you can do that through our Patreon and become a Legion of Super Sponsors. Super Sponsor, these people are Michael, Anne Marie, Yvonne, Quinn, Nicola, Abby, Miriam, Nicole, Brian, Ethan, Danny, and Majuba. And if you would like to become a Legion of Super Sponsor, you can do that through patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. Well, if you would like to follow me on the socials and on YouTube, which I guess YouTube is a social media platform.
Yeah,
we're being social right now.
Social right now. I always kind of forget YouTube is a social media platform, but it very much is. You can leave those little comments.
You can follow people, you can subscribe, you can leave a comment, you can message people. It's social.
Exactly.
You can make reaction videos to somebody else's video, and then it becomes a whole back and forth. And
Exactly. You want to make a reaction video to this? We'll react to your reaction video. It'll be an endless loop.
It'll be very social, though.
Very social.
But if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Vero True Social at Derby Kid. Find out what I'm watching or listening to or occasionally reading. You can follow me on Instagram at the Derby Kid. And I'm also on YouTube. I have a personal YouTube channel, youtube.com/duckmilkprod. I hoped in July, when I have a little more time. June is a crazy travel month for me. So I will be traveling every weekend in June after having taken a 2-week vacation. So I'm really just committed to the not staying at home thing.
You're loving it.
I'm going to crash in July. It's going to be terrible. But back in July, I think I'm going to, when I get back in July, I'm hoping to do some more video content for my Duck Milk Prod channel. I'll probably talk about my experience at SnyderCon. Hadn't done that yet. I've been putting that off. I kind of created a controversy that people were so shocked that that someone would say that the critics wanted BVS to be fun. Well, yeah, that's what they said. Why is this a shocking realization for people on the internet? I didn't understand that, but that's all on me. That's my fault. We'll probably talk about it. And then I want to start doing some live stream interviews with other Snyderverse fans and some people I met at SnyderCon. So hope to start some of that kind of content on my personal YouTube channel. So if you're interested in that, definitely give me a subscribe over there so you can know when I'm dropping stuff. I also recently just started a travel blog with my brother where we are sharing our adventures and what we do, because we travel as a family pretty often, and we've been to some cool places and have some tips along the way that we can share with people. And it was sort of started out of the fact that my brother does all this research for our travels, and he looks at some of the other stuff that people do, and he's like, oh, it's not that great, we could do a better job. And I was like, I agree. So we started a blog, a website, and then also social media accounts. So if you want to follow us at Oasis Broom. So Oasis like a desert oasis, and broom like a broom in your kitchen. That's explained on our website. I know it's kind of a strange thing, but it actually goes back to some trips that our dad, who used to do take choirs around singing and playing handbells. It was a committee that they would put together called Oasis Broom, where if you were on that Oasis Broom committee, you were both serving people lunch. These are teenagers that he was taking around the country and around the world. And so he would put them to work to help them learn how to serve each other. So you would serve a meal, and then you would clean up afterwards. So it was called Oasis Broom. So we have, since that was born out of sort of travel, so that's what we've called it now. So to try to continue our father's legacy of travel and sharing experiences. So if you want to check us out, we are on Instagram, Twitter, and the Facebook. So check us out at Oasis Brew.
Awesome. Well, I will say, I will be a first testimonial. I follow you on the gram. I think I follow you in the available places. And
Thank you.
Your content that you've been posting lately has made me really want to go to Canada. It's also kind of made me want to go on a cruise, and I'm like generally suspicious of cruises. So, I mean, I'm just saying it's changing hearts and minds.
Good.
Not telling people to follow you, but if you want your life to be different, much like going to see The Flash,
like Jaden Smith, WTF?
Did you know that Jaden Smith said?
That's how I'm going to promote our new travel blog. It changed someone's life, and
it changed my life, and then just in very small font, Jaden Smith, and you're like the first Instagram to get sued.
Well, yeah, we recently went to Alaska and Canada, so that's a lot of our content, but we've been to South America and Australia. So we have a lot of content that we can share in the coming months and hopefully years as we continue to do this. So I would love it if people followed, if you're into that kind of thing.
Now, Rebecca, do you think that you're going to take some travel content from maybe an upcoming travel destination to share on Oasis Brew?
Probably. I probably will. That counts as travel.
I don't know if there's a more scenic location than beautiful New Jersey. I want you to be recording the whole way on the ride back from Philly, I think.
Yeah, Philly. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's not as funny as if you had come into Newark. It's not a beautiful area that you have to drive through. There's like a lot of like plants that are just like billowing smoke into the air. People are always like, what is happening here? The great introduction to my beautiful state.
So if people don't know, part of the Flash movie content that we hope to do here on Supergirl Radio is that I'm actually flying up to visit with Morgan and Mike, and we're going to go see the Flash movie, the greatest cinematic achievement of all time, together, and see if it changes all of our lives. I think we'll walk out of different people.
I felt like I couldn't see it without the emotional support of my co-host, because I was like, what if my life really does change dramatically? Like, I feel like our lives need to change at the same time. So that's our commitment to you, the listener.
Yeah. So we'll have to figure out what kind of content that we want to do for that. I don't know if we need to, like, maybe we have to document the before times.
Yeah, maybe we should.
In the after time.
We're like out at dinner, like, this is the before.
So I don't know what that's going to turn into, but we'll probably bring something back as like a like a pre-Flash something or other Flash movie, and then we'll do a full Flash movie live stream where other people in the chat or any of our listeners or viewers can share your thoughts about the Flash movie as well. So I kind of just pitched this to Morgan, like, hey, we may never see Supergirl on the big screen again, so we should probably make it a big deal. And then like a couple of months later, they were like, and we were going to do a Supergirl movie, and I was like, oh, okay, well, all right.
But we were committed then. I was like, I've already thought about some stuff to take you to do. You gotta come.
So we're gonna have fun and enjoy that great big screen, silver screen experience that we are about to have. Is Tom Cruise right? Is Stephen King right? Is Jaden Smith? Are they all telling us the truth? Is it going to change our lives? We will see.
We're gonna see. It's coming up soon. We'll weigh in next week. Will we be different? Probably. I can only imagine everything will have changed for us by then.
What if we, for the Flash movie, I probably shouldn't say this now, but I'm just putting this out there. What if for the Flash movie live stream, we try to be different? Like maybe
I love this. I don't know what this is gonna be.
I don't know what that'll look like.
I'm gonna start workshopping this immediately. Like it's gonna get weird next week. That's my guarantee.
What if we try to make it? I don't know if we could like be the bizarro versions of ourselves. I don't know what.
Oh, I like it. Everything has changed.
We are different people now.
You'll see what the post Flash movie Supergirl Radio is like.
So that we like to dress up here on Supergirl Radio for the live stream. So that's what you get when you come to the live stream, is that that strange fun. So Morgan, where can people find you?
Sure, you can find me as a co-host on the Legendary Ladies podcast, which, I was going to say I have to send you the logo, but I think you got it already.
Yeah,
So you can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mojotastic, and I'm just going to plug the Legendary Ladies podcast, formerly the Legends of Tomorrow podcast. So we're going to still talk about Legends from time to time, but it's off the air now. Unfortunately, it was canceled. I'm still mad about it. Whatever. We're moving on. But we were talking about pop culture, movies, books, TV, music, all kinds of good stuff. And we have some fun stuff coming up for you guys. Our latest episode was about Across the Spider-Verse, where Kat and I asked the question, if it ends on a cliffhanger, is it like a full movie? Like, what's with all these movies that are ending on cliffhangers? And like, what's the difference between movies and television now? So we got, because we saw Across the Spider-Verse and we were like, well, that's a perfect movie. What are we going to say about that? And it turns out we found a topic besides just being like, and then when that part happened, it was cool. Because otherwise I think it might have been a little bit of a boring podcast. Anyway, go see Across the Spider-Verse and then watch our or listen to our episode about it. You can find us on a bunch of different social medias. We're at the Legendary Ladies on YouTube, Instagram. We're the Legendary Ladies podcast.com. Online, we're legends_podcast still on Twitter, but it's a new Twitter, fun and confusing. So make sure you go follow us there. Same great Twitter name, new location though. And then we are also on TikTok.
Look at y'all.
Can you even believe that we're on TikTok? I can't, because TikTok scares me. But we're at the Legendary Ladies Pod on TikTok. So if you are so inclined to talk it up, as as everyone says on TikTok,
that's what the kids say.
You know how everyone's always talking it up. You should go follow us there too.
So we did talk about whether or not we should have Supergirl Radio on TikTok. And I think we agreed if we got to 1,000 followers on Instagram, we would go to TikTok. We have not gotten there yet.
It's like both like a promise and a threat. I mean, if you guys can get us up there, we'll do it. We'll be talking all day.
Why not? So if you haven't followed the Supergirl Radio Instagram yet, do it if you want us on TikTok. So that should be fun if that ever happens, I guess. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But I'm actually gonna have to like redo this ending because Morgan popped in and I had edited her out of here.
Exciting, but also a little painful.
I said if Morgan's not gonna be here, I'm cutting her out of the dock.
I'm just cutting her out of the dock. No Morgan in the dock.
So I guess we'll just have to wing it for this on the outro. If we can remember how to do it, I guess we'll just do that because I don't have enough time to type it out. If you can kind of remember how we do this thing, because we took a couple of weeks off, so we're having to jump back into it.
I'm rusty, but I'll try.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon. And we hope you've enjoyed this recap of Superman Celebration.
And...
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom. Because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. It's so fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.